On to the next presentation. It will be for the city of Crown Point. They will be doing Broadway and US 231 stormwater improvement. Just a quick brief on that, and I'm not going to steal Eric's thunder. Big fan of water sports, by the way. Eric is. You should ask him about it. Is a stormwater improvement that is complicated by the fact that it is on an INDOT project, so that's always fun. And so that it was designed not to their liking, the Crown Points, and they're going to try to fix it. And then Edgewater flooding mitigation, just briefly, we paid for the engineering on that. This is now coming for construction. So they will give you, Eric will give you his brief.
So we got one for engineering and one for construction.
Yes, sir. So with that, Eric Wolverton, everybody. Hold your applause. Yeah, thank you. He needed that.
Good evening, Chairman of the board. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to remain seated. I can control my screen and my computer a little better here than standing up. Eric Wolverton with American Structure Point. Doug Wright with the City of Crown Point. The engineering department is here as well tonight. So as Dan stated, we'll start with the Broadway and US 231 stormwater improvements. There's a ditch that runs here that kind of holds a couple names. I'll just stick with Smith Ditch for ease tonight. As Dan mentioned, this ditch actually crosses two state highways. So we're in the southeast side of Crown Point. In the middle of the screen is Broadway running north-south, US 231 in this location. So we're talking about a culvert that extends underneath existing US 231, follows Smith Ditch, crosses Broadway up to an area that the city owns that we're looking at possible stormwater storage facility as well. So like I said, a two-part project, a culvert replacement realignment, and then stormwater storage. This request, as mentioned, is for engineering tonight. Current estimated cost is $310,000 with an 80% request, which equals $248,000. We'll start with the culvert at US 231. The picture on the left, the blue line indicates the flow pattern of the existing Smith Ditch. Obviously, there's yellow arrow indicating that it flows from southwest to northeast. You can see the location of 231 and Broadway there. Just to the adjacent to the yellow arrow, you can see how the flow pattern takes an abrupt turn to the southeast and then back to the north. What you're looking at on the right is actually from NDOT's culvert inspection report. This is the looking downstream within the existing box culvert. Kind of hard to see. I'll try to zoom in, but you can see at the end of the culvert abruptly turns and heads in a different direction, which is obviously not something that's preferred within a culvert. This next slide are pictures from the site. So this is looking the other way at the picture that I just showed. As the stormwater discharges to this into the box culvert, over to the next picture following the arrow, it then turns and goes 90 degrees to the east with a retaining wall on the north side and just an open channel that's failing to the south. At the end where my hand is, it then turns and goes back north through these culverts, which are dual 30-inch culverts underneath an old railroad embankment. The culverts are most definitely undersized, and that can be exhibited by some pictures that are provided here. This is a residence just on the south side of 231. The pictures that were taken during obviously a flooding event. You can see the basketball goal I'll point out, so we can compare that to the next picture. This is actually a picture from earlier this week. You can see the same basketball goal in the background. There's the home. I indicated a line that shows where that flooding event occurred. So this whole area was inundated with water based on the downstream restriction. So, pull up.
Do we know how old these structures are?
We do not. I did talk to, the NDOT, culvert asset engineer who's newer there, and he provided the inspection report. The box culvert that's underneath 231 is in fair condition. It's not necessarily failing at the moment. But I would estimate it's got to be at least 40, 50 years old.
Thank you.
So this is a Google Earth image of that location. We did go in and through an online source called StreamStats, you can identify, a drainage location, and it'll delineate a watershed for you. What this is indicating is that there's nearly 3 square miles that eventually make it to this location. And that existing culvert is only a 5x5 box culvert. So not only is that culvert undersized, the poor configuration of the two 90-degree turns coming out of that, then the existing dual 30-inch culverts that are underneath the railroad are all restrictions to the flow here. The subdivision just south of here is called Stillwater. If you follow Smith Ditch, with my hand here down to this location, the city within the last handful of years upgraded the culverts here based on them experiencing flooding within the Stillwater subdivision. Those were hydraulically modeled and replaced. The culverts that were replaced there are dual 12-foot box culverts. So upstream, it requires two 12-foot span box culverts. You go a little bit further downstream and there's only a 5-foot box culvert. In terms of the proposed fix, there's no reason why this couldn't be replaced with a single structure, likely a box culvert or dual box culverts, extending from where my hand is, across to take away this, these two 90-degree turns, and then the culverts going underneath the abandoned railroad corridor, which will be a Lake County Parks, City of Crown Point joint effort trail that extends to this area.
So where does all this water go under I-65 at Beaver Dam Ditch?
Extends to the north, up to here, and then it ends
So are
up
we
going.
looking through all of that too? Because it's not like we don't know what's going on in Crown Point. So is this just a snapshot, or are you looking at the entire system of what happens to all these feeders?
So-
Everything on the west side of I-65 goes through one hole under I-65. It's
So-
worrisome to you, I hope, too.
So we have looked at the culvert under I-65 in this location, and it is adequately sized. Now, the next presentation we're going to talk about is the Edgewater subdivision, and that's the one that you guys have funded the engineering on. That's this subdivision right here. So all this water eventually makes its way through this subdivision up to this location. So that the next application is talking about this other pinch point here and upsizing that culvert.
Now, where's that in relation to where the actual crossing I-65 is located? Is that south or north?
It's right
Oh,
here.
right there.
Right here.
So everything in Crown Point, St. John comes to that hole that's in the Little Cal watershed, just to point that out to everybody. I don't know why I'm the only one worried about it, but I'm worried about it. 65 can't close.
So I guess before I move on to the second part of that, are there any other questions regarding this, or Doug, was there anything that you wanted to add?
Well, thank you.
Any other questions with regards to this?
This is
particular engineering?
This is part A, 1A. So as I mentioned, there is a second component to this. So as you get to the railroad embankment, extending north of there, Smith Ditch is a regulated drain for Lake County. We have had discussions with Lake County Surveyor's Office. They are interested in this project as a whole and participating. I guess I did forget to mention that when I talked to NDOT culvert asset engineer, they said if we can exhibit flooding, which we easily have the pictures to do so, the study will show that as well. that they would be interested in having discussions and participating in the construction of this project.
Now, you had mentioned the box culvert that goes under I-65 is adequate. Adequate today or adequate to the future as well?
Well, I mean,
That's a big,
there's a lot of
there's so much development going on down there that.
there is, but there's different regulations in place now than when previous development took place. You know, Crown Point has their own development standards. So if a development comes in and they're putting in so much impervious area, there's requirements for them to store all that water on site and not release that at a greater rate than what it does today. So, I mean, that's the difference between, you know, development these days as opposed to, 20, 30 years ago.
Have you got any wind of any construction plans for US 31 in this area? Or 231, I'm sorry?
31.
So, I mean, we're not gonna do all this work for the NDOT to come in and tear it up in 2 years, are they? No,
No, I know that,
you're recorded.
the city is, that's fine. I know the city is looking at development in and around 231 and 65, but it's my understanding it does not extend west of Broadway.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that you implied that the state was willing to partner with this and be involved with this on the crossing of both 231 and then is there anything that needs to be addressed in this engineering or possible construction to go under Broadway itself?
The study will look at that from what it appears that what's at Broadway is adequately sized.
So they would partner with the crossing on 231 then?
231, but I mean, if we determine that there are issues there, I believe that, and we can exhibit that, I think NDOT would be willing to sit down and entertain participation.
So you'll be reaching out to other entities for possible funding?
Yep.
Okay.
I
Any
have
other
a question. Yes, you had mentioned that the 231, the possible retention area of 10 acres or so. 10 acre, is that true?
So that's part B. I'll move into now. That actually is shown here in the square. It is on the east side of Broadway. Is where.
And so my question was gonna, or is there more land that would you allow you to increase that area of storage? Is there land available?
So I'll go to the next slide here.
Thank you.
This is from Lake County GIS identifying the piece of property that is owned by the city of Crown Point. You can see at the bottom that it's right at 10 acres. This is an area that you can see, this is Smith Ditch here that flows underneath Broadway, turns north and goes up to 113th. The city is interested in doing some storage, some upstream storage there as part of this project. These are a couple pictures showing the area itself. It's an area that they own. They're not intending to develop. And so I think it's prime property to be able to do some upstream storage.
So is there it looks to me like to the south that you have another 10 acres that show nothing on it. Can you acquire that property and expand the storage capacity? Yes.
I won't speak on behalf of the city, but, whether or not they would be interested in doing that or not. I mean, that land is a little more upland, so it could be developed. So I think it'd probably be more costly.
I see that. Yes. Very good. I understand the answer. Appreciate your time.
So just to recap, post project, culvert replacement, some stormwater storage. With that, I think the city would be interested in looking at that open space, whether or not they could put maybe some walking paths, some native landscaping, those type of things to help beautify that. I mean, it is adjacent to a lot of commercial properties. The overall impact of both of these that we've looked at, it appears that 68 residential homes and 3 commercial businesses will receive some relief from flooding based on this project, particularly as it relates to that culvert replacement. at 231.
Has any of this flooding impacted Broadway or 231
231, yes,
to the point of puddles or shutting it down,
overtopping. Yes.
overtopping the whole thing?
Yes,
And what kind of event? When recently?
we'd have to determine that through a study. Do you know the last time it cleared, Doug?
About a year ago.
Yeah, so fairly frequent. And like I said, the culvert asset engineer, he's new in his position. So when I brought this up, besides being able to just look at the inspection reports, he was completely unaware that, you know, this had occurred in this location. So there's definitely some conversations to have with NDOT regarding this.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.